It's time to step through the doorway to your ultimate life. Corporate speaker, founder of Tech Talks Live, and the author of the book, Heal the Boy and the Man Will Appear, Raul Lopez Jr. is impacting thousands of people across America with his remarkable story. Raul has quickly become one of the most sought-out corporate and personal development speakers and trainers in his industry. After struggling through life from severe childhood trauma, Raul turned his life around and studied behavioral psychology at Stanford University. He's certified by Tony Robbins Strategic Intervention Coaching and Og Mandino's Leadership Academy.
And by 9 years old, I was doing drugs. At 13, I conceived my first child. And then at 14, I got incarcerated. And I made some decisions, and I said, this is not the only life. For so many years, I thought it was. This is not life. There has to be more than what's happening to me and the way that I felt, the way that I act.
As a father of 4 and grandfather to 6, Raul is a dedicated family man, mentor, and volunteer, speaking to incarcerated youth who have also suffered from severe childhood trauma.
He has an amazing story. I know his book is absolutely fantastic, so if you get a chance, he'll probably mention that, and I would highly recommend reading it.
Raul is a fierce and successful leader that has been on stage with some of the greatest entrepreneurs of our time.
In everything you do, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, a stay-at-home dad, in a career, an entrepreneur, make a conscious effort to raise the bar.
It's time to tap into your hunger and learn how to get what you want out of life. Will you please rise and give a huge round of applause to Mr. Raul Lopez Jr.
I am just going to start. My name is Raul Lopez Jr. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I'm a life and business coach. I am very passionate about people and how they feel, how they act, and the things they do, and understanding why we do those things, why we act, why we do, and why we feel the way we do. My title here is 90% of business problems are people's personal problems in disguise. Examples, just starting in a basic company. There's a founder, a CEO who has a management team. Sometimes there's struggles between the management team and the founder. Each of those managers have employees. There's a lot of struggles between employees to management, and then employees themselves will often have challenges amongst each other. Where does that come from, right? Because if there's personal problems amongst the employees, that's where the challenges between them come. Even though they're at work to do a certain job, they have personal things that they carry. Right? And sometimes we take our work stuff home, we carry it home. Sometimes we take our work life home, and it bothers us at home. And sometimes we take our home life to work, and things trigger us around us, the way people act, the way people say, even though it has nothing to do with that individual, but it triggers them because of something else that's going on. That creates workflow problems. When there's challenges between employee and management level, the manager, it's the same challenge, right? A lot of times young managers have egos, right? And if they have egos and then they have some challenges outside in their personal life, they come to work and they bring those challenges to work. And when they're communicating with their employees, the employees don't like it and they start to butt heads and have challenges. Same thing as you go up the ladder, all the way to the CEO, all the way to a founder. If the founder has personal challenges at home, and we all have them, right? It's about managing them and understanding them, being able to work through them, so that we can communicate with our families better and in our businesses and with our employees better. The biggest challenge that I see with leadership is that we're busy all the time. We're stressed out all the time. We're working at early hours. We're working late at night. A lot of times higher management levels are on salary, right? So salary plus commissions or whatever you get. And you're traveling around, flying around. You're working late hours, you get home and you're tired, right? You get home and you're tired and you have a blow up with your family, whatever it is, because you're trying to rest, and you take that into work with you the next day. And you're tired because you've been traveling, you know you have some more traveling to do, and you bring in your challenges from your home, and you're not communicating with your employees very well. And maybe if you're asked to do something extra, you blow up at your manager, and all based on personal problems. 90% of business problems are people's personal problems in disguise. How did I learn this? How do I understand this? Why do I understand this? Because I've been in various companies at a corporate level, Masco Corporation, Fortune 500 company. I've worked for a few different Fortune 500 companies. I worked in the medical field for a while. And I saw, especially between union and management, that's a whole other talk. But I saw a lot of challenges, and I saw a lot of people. I had a lot of direct reports. And most of the problems that I was able to solve in those years was sitting somebody down, talking to them about their personal life, understanding the challenges that they had, what happened to them over the weekend, what if they fought with their girlfriend or their wife, if something happened within their family. I would coach them, I would counsel them, I'd talk to them about their personal life, and it would calm them, and it would help them to know management understood who they were and that we cared. And then they'd go back out there and be very productive. They'd go to work. And if there were other challenges that were going on, those people who we had built that trust with, that cohesiveness with, they wouldn't take part in it. And sometimes they'd even defend it. Go, hey guys, let's just drop that, man. Let's just get to work and get things done, right? So those personal problems, you can help your employees with them at the office. So often we don't talk about anything personal. And I know there's certain legalities. We have HR departments. There's certain legalities, things we can and can't say, but there's nothing wrong with sitting down and listening to your people on a personal level. It doesn't have to be just business, because if you improve the way they feel about coming to work, when you help them to understand separating work and personal life in a healthy way, then they're going to come to work and they're not going to be carrying those things. And this is from CEO, founder, owner, all the way down. Every employee of that company needs to help understand these types of things. Now, let me go back to how I just even came about to think about people, right? And noticing how people's personal lives affect their jobs. Is going back for me, I had a pretty rough young life. I'm 50 years old right now. And I always say that because when I talk about my young life, I wanted people to understand how spread away I am from it. I'm a different person now than I was in my younger age. But I had a lot of the work that I do outside of business and corporate consulting is I work a lot with people who suffer from trauma, people who suffer from depression, anxiety, PTSD, borderline personality disorders. The reason I work in that industry is because I've been diagnosed with all of those over my lifetime. And it's pretty rough being in depression for 20 years, just living in a darkness and a fog and not even understanding that I had depression. I didn't even know what depression was. I didn't understand what emotions were. Understanding why I do the things I do, why I act the way I act, and why I feel the way I feel. I didn't know any of the answers to those questions, but I knew I felt really horrible. And it led back to a time in my childhood where I was very young. I'm going to do this really fast. Where I was very young, and my parents got separated. And basically, my mother came home one day and just told me, "Get in the car. We're going to go for a ride." And next thing I know, she put me on a plane. She flew me to another state, and she had taken me from my father. And when I asked for him, she said, "Don't worry about your father. You're not going to see him anymore." And as a 7-year-old child, it broke me, right? And I had a ton of emotions that just filled my body that I didn't understand, that I didn't know how to express. I didn't know what they were. Looking back, it was pain, it was heartbreak, it was sadness, it was confusion, it turned to rage, it turned to hate, just all these emotions that I was feeling based on being taken away from my father and told I wasn't going to see him again. I didn't know what those feelings were. This little kid inside, just tormented energy, just negative, just bouncing around me. And it really took a toll on me, not being able to understand that or how to express my emotions. It's very important. Even as adults, I meet adults that don't know how to express their emotions. And it's as simple as, "Hey, that was amazing. Thank you." Or is, "Hey, I didn't like that. Let's work on that." Expressing, releasing. Emotions are an energy. Emotions are an energy. Emotion, energy in motion. So when something happens and you're happy, you're excited, your favorite team scores a goal or something, you jump up, yeah, and you're excited, and it's energy. You have to let it out. You can't just sit there and your team scores, you have all this energy. That's what you'd feel. You don't realize you're releasing it because you're excited and you just start jumping around. So that's a positive energy. Challenge is negative energy. Somebody tells you something, somebody insults you, somebody does something to you or a family member and you don't like it. A lot of times we hold it in. We just hold it. "Oh, this guy made me so mad. I'm not going to say nothing." But that energy is held in. And every energy, every emotion has to be expressed in some form, or it can make us physically sick. I can teach you more about that later. So that's why, too, people have blow-ups, just explosions out of nowhere. They're nice, and all of a sudden they just blow up and get in a fight or just do something crazy because they have all that energy built up in them. At some point, it has to release. It has to. So energy in motion. Emotions are very important to understand how to express them. My book, and I didn't have a copy here. I don't understand why I forgot my book, but my book is called Heal the Boy and the Man Will Appear. Learn the importance of understanding and expressing your emotions. And I'm just launching a kid's book that's an introductory to kids to learn how to express their emotions, because it's very important that as adults, as kids, we're taught to express our emotions. So when we're adults, we know how. We don't hold in all that negative energy. That negative energy can turn you depressed. It can be anxiety. It can turn into a bipolar disorder, some form of bipolar disorder. It can turn into, depending on the trauma that you had, some form of PTSD. It's exactly how it happened for me. So after I was taken from my father, I didn't know how to express my emotions. I really started to have a hard time, like in school, communicating with people, because I was so lost and I just had this energy. I wasn't able to release it. I didn't know how. And I just kind of went numb. And a lot of kids used to laugh at me because I'd cry at school, and I wouldn't participate in anything because I was broken. Really, my heart was broken, and I didn't understand what was happening. So kids would cry. I mean, I would cry, and kids would laugh at me. And it got to a certain point where every day kids just kind of laughing at me. It'd be like I was walking through a gauntlet all the time, with just people laughing and joking and making fun of me and the whole thing. Where I hardened. And I remember the day I looked at these kids and I just thought, I'm never going to cry again. And I'm never going to let anybody laugh at me again. That's the age of maybe between 7 and 8. My heart hardened. I'm never going to cry again. I'm never going to let anybody laugh at me again. And my heart went, whoa. And I didn't realize it, but that's what happened. And from that day on, I would fight with rage. If you were looking at me for a couple of seconds, right, I assumed that you were going to laugh at me or that you were going to make fun of me. So I would just attack people with rage. And that became my persona, who was created when I said that, when I said, no one's going to laugh at me again. No one's going to, make fun of me. And that's who I became. So I started getting myself in bad situations. And by the time I was 9, I was doing drugs. At 13, my girlfriend and I, we conceived my first child when I was 13. And then when I was 14, I got incarcerated. By that time, I was drinking, doing drugs. I had a baby, gang life, all these crazy things. Continued confusion in my life. Continued living in a fog, just not understanding all these things that are happening, why they're happening, and how this weird darkness that I'm living in all of a sudden came about from being a beautiful little baby boy, like we all are when we're born. Beautiful baby joy, love, light. That's what kids are. They're gifts to us. So when I got incarcerated when I was 14, over the next 10-year period, the majority of that time, I would be incarcerated. I ended up getting out of San Quentin prison when I was 24, I'm sorry. So 10 years later, in and out of every type of facility you could think of: juvenile hall, ranches, farms, county jails, work furloughs, halfway houses, everything you could think of. Over the 10 years, I'd spent most of my life in those places. Got out of San Quentin prison when I was 24. And this is where I went on a journey. I said, there has to be more to life than this. There has to be something more than the way that I'm living, because I had fallen into that lifestyle and I thought that's what life was about. But something inside, I say God, something inside told me, the Holy Spirit would tell me, man, there's more to life, Raul. There's more to life. And I'd say, why do I act this way? Why do I do these things? Why do I feel this way? I don't know what it was. So when I paroled from San Quentin prison, I got an opportunity, forced to go to school, to college, which was a good thing. And by the time I got to college level courses, I discovered Psychology 101. And Psychology 101 explains or answers those 3 questions. If you grew up like this, you may act like this. If something like this happened to you, you may feel like this. It just answered those 3 questions. And these things I'm reading, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's actually answers to these questions. I had no idea that childhood trauma even existed. I had no idea that we are conditioned from birth, that our environment and the people around us, the things they say, the things they do, become our core values. And I'd put myself in the last 10 years in trouble around criminals, right? So what was inside of me? What associations had I made in my mind? What psychological conditioning had I conditioned myself to, or allowed to be conditioned by? And it just blew my mind reading this psychology. So I was on a path to get into general education in junior college. And I just went off that path and I started studying different types of psychology, behavioral psychology, all these different psychologies to certain levels. And I got a bunch of units, but I wasn't studying the program, right? I was studying what I wanted to study. And I was able to take all those units, transfer them are proof that I have them, my transcripts, and pay out of my pocket for psychology courses at Stanford University, continuing study courses. So I started studying psychology at Stanford, and I learned everything that I could about the human mind, the physical, right? The mind, the body. What we eat matters as far as depression and anxiety and all these things. That what we think about. We have to understand that there are things planted in our mind from trauma. Here's how we get a memory. A memory comes from an event connected to an emotion, right? Something that happened, good or bad, connected to the emotion, to an emotion. If you think back in your life, and you say, what did you do last year on a certain date? You're going to say, I don't know. But if you say, well, tell me something you did last year that was fun. And you're going to remember, I went to Disneyland and da-da-da. What did you do 3 days before that? I don't know. I don't remember. You went to Disneyland, it was fun, right? It was an event attached to emotion. You remember that. If you got into a car accident, you would remember that. Oh yeah, last year on this time I got into a car accident. It was horrible, right? It's an event attached to emotion, negative emotion, but it's a memory. Anything in between those memories, we don't remember, right? There's nothing holding it there. It has to be an emotional time, and we remember it. So what happens is these trauma, when we're traumatized as youth or in the military, people go to the military, get traumatized. What they see and what's happening around them, there's a connection there, and it's a trigger, right? It's a trauma, PTSD, excuse me. And what we don't realize is that we have that association, that we've created that memory way back in our minds, and that we can be triggered by it. For example, if you got into a horrible car accident, right, and you're traumatized by it, and one of the car that you got into a wreck with was red, you may not realize that if you keep thinking about that and keep carrying it, at some point, you're not even going to remember that all that. You'll remember, but you're not going to be thinking about that it happened. But certain things about that day will trigger you into that same trauma. So you might be driving down the street, walking down the street, and a red car goes by, and you don't even realize that you saw the red car, but the car went by, and your subconscious saw it, sees it, recognizes it, and you start to feel anxiety, or you start to then you're triggered to remember the car accident. We don't realize that our brain is so powerful and that these things happen to us. So sometimes we're in bad moods and we don't even know why, right? Does all this relate to a business, to your company as an entrepreneur, right? If you're at home and you come to work, and on your way to work, that red car drives by and it triggers you, you walk into work with a bad attitude. If you walk into work with a bad attitude, you're going to have bad attitude with people around you. And are you going to be productive? No, right? So I started to study things. I started to learn all these things, and I'll tell you a little bit more. I understood my mind, I understood my body, I understood a lot of the whys, those 3 questions, the whys, act, feel, and do. But I didn't feel better, right? I didn't feel better. And I didn't even realize that I had been going through depressions and anxieties. And around that time is when I did even learn what depression was. I was depressed for so many years, I didn't even know. And I didn't know what depression was. So, where was I? I'm sorry, I'm having so much fun here. So I went to school. I learned about my mind, my body, and then I still wasn't feeling well. So spiritually, I started seeking God, and I started going to church, and I started looking for answers to other questions, some internal questions, right, that come up for us. Trying to understand what was that was speaking to me, before I'd go do something crazy. Why don't go do that? Don't do that. Before we get these, sometimes we call them hunches, but I believe 100% it's the Holy Spirit that's talking to us and saying, hey, don't go do that, or be careful over here, be careful over there. We know. We know what's happening. We know what we're doing right. We know what we're doing wrong. And so I started seeking answers to that, right? When I would ask myself, why did I do what I do? It's because something inside me was telling me don't go do that. And I'd do it anyways. And then I'd feel horrible about it. It would just continue downfall. I could feel bad about myself. And I keep doing it, and it goes on and on. So spiritually, that's when I learned a little bit different prayer, meditation, quieting my mind. I didn't understand that I could quiet my mind. With all those studies, my mind would still race like this all the time. And spiritually, I learned how to soak in prayer, how to quiet my mind, how to focus my thoughts, and how to think of nothing. And that's really hard to do. But just to completely quiet and go into a place where you're not thinking. And when you're not thinking, you start to hear. You start to hear God talking to you. And that's what happened for me. And God actually took me, and he spoke to me, showed me a vision, showed me a dream in a meditation. And he took me back to when I was 7 years old. And he showed me that that day that my heart hardened, what I had done is put that little boy aside and created this alter ego who was protecting this little boy for all these years. Because if I would get offended, right, I said that little boy, I told that little boy, you're never going to cry again. You're never going to let anybody laugh at you again. And I put him aside. And so I was like this defender, his defender. And that's why I was angry all the time. That's why I was confused all the time. I had this little boy battling inside me to be set free. But I was, in front of him, and I was protecting him. I'm not going to cry. I'm going to fight with you. I'm not going to, I did all the wrong things. And that little boy needed to be released. That heart needed to be softened. So I spoke to him, and I apologized to him, and I picked him up, and I put him into my heart. And I appeared, and this is where my book comes in. Heal the boy, and the man will appear. Learn the importance of understanding and expressing your emotions. And I'm telling this story in such short because I only have 25 minutes here, but it's a powerful story. And as far as God showed me myself at 7, and then he showed me my father, and he spoke to all 3 of us, and he told us that we were the light, that we were the joy, that human race we're here for a purpose to help and share. But there's more details on that. You can find it on my website, RaulLopezOnline.com. And then I have my YouTube channel, just Raul Lopez Jr., and there's a full speech of me just sharing that story that I think you'd love to hear. But with that experience and understanding that I had created an alter ego, I was asking for forgiveness to this little boy, myself, and putting myself in my heart, I was released. And, heal the boy, and the man appeared. And I understood coming out of that life didn't happen to me. Life happened for me, and I'd survived everything that I'd survived, and understanding, through education and spiritual, who I was and why I was, that all that happened to me was for me to go out there and share this stuff with the world, share it with you, share it with your team, share it with your families. Because those of you who have been in the corporate world and do some leadership training, you've realized that a lot of the leadership training that you get, good quality leadership training that you get, you can take home and use it at home too, right? And the stuff you learn for your family, if you're doing any kind of coaching or counseling for your family, the way we communicate, the way we talk, the way we act, verbal communication, nonverbal communication, energy, right? People see who you are before you even speak. They hear you because of your energy and what you walk up with. So, it all ties in. It really does. 90% of business problems are people's personal problems in disguise because we are the human race. We're people, and we are meant to be happy and joyful and full of love, not depressed, not full of anxiety. So when we are not in our joy, when we're not our whole self, when we have that little child that we put aside, we're a different person, and we're in defensive mode all the time. We're always trying to protect ourselves. So a lot of times right now, especially, it's so sad. So many people are depressed and full of anxiety and going through trauma, and they're not their whole self, and they don't know what to do, and they're triggered so easily, and everybody's arguing and fighting, and everybody's divided right now. There are tips and there are tools that you can take to be able to change your life. There are tips and tools to help your employees to feel better personally. And if they feel better personally, they're not going to engage in the drama, and they're going to help they're going to be more productive, right? They're going to have better communication. All the way up. I'm not talking about just salary. Base, hourly employees, management team, our employees, right? The upper management, employees, middle management, upper management, all the way up. We're all people, and we all need to understand these things. And it's important that you bring this into your company, even I don't care if you have 2, 3, 4 employees or 500 employees. You have to bring this into your company and let them know that you care, that you want to help them, that you want to help them feel better. You want to help them feel better about themselves. You want to help them be better, right? Personally, you want to help them understand that they're not alone in their life and the challenges they're having. There's somebody there to listen. If you help them in that way, if you help your employees in that way from top to bottom, your whole environment will change in your company. So contact me, RaulLopezOnline.com. I can help you with that. I'm also launching a digital course about the truth about depression, anxiety, PTSD, and borderline personality disorder. And what I'm sharing is all the tools that I have learned over the years. I got to get going just now, but let me just say this. I used to suffer and be depressed and anxiety for this long, and then I have little spurts of happiness. But I've been able to reverse that with the tools that I've gained over the years from Stanford University all the way to personal coaching and learning and studying neuroscience and all these things I've learned, and I've got tools that I've been able to reverse that. And now I have long spurts of happiness and joy, and I have these little spurts of depressions and anxieties. And it's because I know how to get myself out of it. I understand it, I acknowledge it, and I know how to get myself right back out of it so that I'm not in that darkness, I'm not in that fog. I hope you enjoyed this. I tried to go fast. It's only had 25 minutes here. It's been a great time. I hope I was able to give you a few tips and tools about, understanding our childhood trauma, or understanding things that have happened to us and how we are conditioned from birth, psychologically conditioned, and neural associations, all these things. In this fast talk, I couldn't get it all to you. But go to my website, raullopezonline.com, and you'll see the information that's coming about my digital course. My book is there. You can order my book, and you can learn a lot more about me. And send me an email. I'll talk to you. I was going to give away a T-shirt. This is my T-shirt. Life is better together, because we're not alone. So many people feel lonely. You're not. Life is better together. Get around people. But if you go to my website, raullopezonline.com, and you send me an email, that first little box you see, you can send me an email and say, hey, I saw you at the Best U Expo. And I'll pick one person and I'll send you out a T-shirt. And I'll just contact you. We can get your address, and I'll send you one of my T-shirts. It has a nice logo on the back and the front. I'd love to give you one. Talk to you soon. Enjoy the day. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the night.